Welcome to Football Fanatics. I'm your host, Vincent, and today we're getting into the off-season and our very first mock draft. So before we get into it, the rules of the mock draft are trades are allowed, and this is what I think will happen. So, obviously, first pick, no surprise here, Trevor Lawrence. He's very comparable to Josh Allen coming out as a rookie. Very inconsistent, nothing really that is too new of information, but good to point out that although this is the primary thing, it's not 100% inevitable, but then we get into the second pick, but before then, there will be a trade involving the Falcons and the Jets. So the Falcons will trade for Sam Darnold, a 23-year-old quarterback for the Jets. He has completed 3 seasons, so he has 2 years left on his rookie deal before you have to even worry about anything. And the Jets will receive the 35th pick in this draft, which is, top of the second round. So, with that knowledge, we all know that it's gonna be Zach Wilson. Now, this could be the most pro-ready quarterback in the NFL. I would probably have, you try and pair him with some offensive linemen later in the draft, as you have that late first-round pick and then your second-round picks. Maybe also get him some receivers then, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, also, quick note, the reason that I have the Falcons trading is so that he could sit for a year behind Matt Ryan, and also with a pick down in, past where you're gonna get the top 3 quarterbacks, that seems like their best option. So before we get into anything else, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. In draft season, we're doing stuff like this all the time, and it really helps out the channel. So, another trade, this time involving the Dolphins and the Panthers, and no players are moving this time. This time the Panthers are just moving up to get some picks, and the Dolphins get the 8th and the 39th pick in return, and the Panthers are going to select Justin Fields. Now, he needs a year or so to develop, which is why you are keeping Teddy Bridgewater in this scenario, and you aren't packaging him in there to try and move up. He has the problems that we've seen Mitch Trubisky and Mark Sanchez have, but of staring down at their first read. However, another guy who has this problem is Justin Herberger, so you don't necessarily have the death sentence. And that's kind of why I use the pro comp of Lamar Jackson, as he is, a bit more of that wild card, does enjoy running out of Ohio State. So, with 4th, the Falcons, they see that the top 3 quarterbacks are gone, and this is why they traded there for the whatchamacallit. And they will pick up the offensive tackle Rashawn Slater. Now, he is the most pro-ready offensive tackle, which is important when you have a Matt Ryan who's older and less mobile. I think Penei Sewell has the higher upside between all the offensive tackles, but if you're talking about today who's the best offensive tackle, it's Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. The Bengals want upside as they are getting, hopefully, Joe Burrow back. So they're going to get Penei Sewell, who is a left offensive tackle. And, higher upside. Floor isn't there, but hopefully you can develop him. Get Joe Burrow him, maybe a receiver paired in the second round, and you're off to the races with a good offense. The Eagles, they were going to get Devonta Smith. Now, you have the question of Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, and Devonta Smith. For the Eagles, I'd take Devonta Smith, as he's the most reliable option. In the last 2 years, you've picked very boomer bust projects, and none of them have turned out. You aren't getting any of the top 3 quarterbacks in this, so you might as well get some weapons for your quarterback. as, you know, you ain't gonna be able to move once, it doesn't seem like, as he has let go of Doug Peterson. But anyway, Jamar Chase will come off the board next, who is very similar to Deshaun Jackson. Now, it's very important to note that while Devonta Smith is your traditional, like, Adam Thielen primary target, does not go down the field often, Jamar Chase works very weirdly in that he likes to run, like, fade balls and post balls early in the game, and then work towards those shorter routes later in the game with pairing in slants and in routes, and I think I saw a couple out routes, but not a ton. But he'll work from those longer routes down to those shorter routes rather than what most receivers do, where they start with those slants and then later in the game they'll take a play action and get on a double move like a little slant and go or a post corner or whatever. So, Dolphins select Micah Parsons, 8th overall. Now, this, you know, he has good ball skills. He's great breaking on the ball, but he's not that good of a man corner, or a man linebacker, excuse me. Now, if you know the Dolphins scheme, you're going to be questioning why I made the selection. Now, if I were the coach here, I would keep a lot of cover one with an underneath zone and then put Micah Parsons in this underneath zone, as that's where he does the best. And although it's technically going to be a hook zone, he's really just a free runner where he can play the ball like he did at Penn State. He can come in and rush. He can, you know, break on anything he wants to, which is how I think he will be used the best. And then you have the cover one scheme going on behind it. So, coming in at number 9, we get Trey Lance out of NDSU. Now, he did not throw the amount of passes you'd like to see. I also used the pro comp of Lamar Jackson, as it seemed like he was always running and never throwing many passes. And this is why, very risky pick, I don't love it. And this is why I think he'll fall a little bit more than what some people think. But, you know, you pretty much have heard enough about him that you should have your opinion made up. So then, 10th, we have another trade, this time Colts and Broncos. Now, you got your franchise quarterback, hopefully, finally, after Peyton Manning. Drew Lock ain't it, so you pick up a late third rounder from the Colts. Colts will try and run with Drew Lock in their amazing defense. Seems like a trade that could happen, and you know, the Colts could use a mediocre quarterback and try and do what the Broncos did with Peyton Manning, where you ride your defense and supporting cast and have a mediocre quarterback in to win a Super Bowl. So then the Cowboys are going to pick up Patrick Surtain. This is one of the best landing spots for Surtain. And this is because the Cowboys are still running that Seattle 3 defense that was made popular by Seattle. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go back and watch why the Legion of Boom was so successful. And he's this great outside deep third corner. And, you know, shut down a lot of receivers in the deep part of the field in that type of zone. I have a lower grade on him, just under a Perennial All-Pro. This is just because cornerback is one of the hardest positions to play, and I traditionally penalize them about 0.2, 0.3 points because of it. So, seeing that one corner's gone, we get a run on cornerbacks, as Caleb Farley will go to the Giants. Man corner can stay underneath. Does not seem like he'll have enough speed to go vertical and play that deep ball, but with the Giants, that shouldn't be too much of an issue. But yeah, it's a pick. People can love it, they can hate it. Then, 49ers will take Kwity Paye. This is a decisive pick, as, you know, they have some edge rushers, as we all know, Nick Bosa and the boys. But this guy can really, like, at Michigan, he played all over the place. He played 3-4 outside linebacker, 3-4 defensive end, and 3-4 defensive end. Which means, really, you just got an athlete And you're hoping that with all that talent, that eventually you can develop him into at least some spot, is kind of the idea with that pick. It's kind of a weird pick for number 12, but that's what I think is the best player available with that 7.2 grade. And he was always making plays for Michigan. Then Chargers select an offensive tackle to protect Justin Herberger. Decent pass protector, not really run or pass heavy on his blocking ability. Just a solid guy. You gotta start protecting Justin Herberger eventually. Get whoever's in there out. Can't remember even who it was. So, oh yeah, it's good to note that I'm also high on Leatherwood. You won't see a lot of mocks going in the first round. The Vikings are picking up Mac Jones. Now, this is one of the weirder quarterback selections out there that I've seen, but I like it because Kirk Cousins is not going to win the Vikings a Super Bowl. The Vikings are at least a year away, so you pick up Mac Jones, who has the pocket mobility of Tom Brady. And as one of the people I like to listen to, TFG, said, the difference between Tom Brady and Kirk Cousins is their ability to manipulate the pocket. And with how bad this Vikings offensive front is, if you could sit Mac Jones for a year behind Kirk Cousins, you could then allow him to, in the second year, to come in and you have helped out all 5 of your offensive linemen, as you've got a ridiculously knowledgeable quarterback who knows how to manipulate the pocket. So, we can go on to the Patriots, who most people think will get Mac Jones. Now they're forced to take Jalen Waddle. Now, some people think that they can have this be the first wide receiver off the board, but you're kind of taking the risk that the Eagles were last year, where you have a return guy who can't catch the ball. And you're gonna want to start manufacturing touches. If he turns out, he could have the next Tyreek Hill, but he, like Tyreek Hill, you have the health concerns, you have the, just even the ability to track the ball on the deep shots. But it seems like a move that Belichick would be able to make and somehow turn out as a great move. So then, third Alabama guy off the board in a row, Landon Dickerson to the Cardinals. Not that much to talk about here, just a solid guy. Cardinals need an offensive line, preferably before you kill Kyler Murray, and you need another franchise quarterback. But, you can't ignore offensive line forever. Raiders are going to select Travis Kelce, I was reading the pro comp, Kyle Pitts. And, you have Darren Waller, and I know this is another tight end, but he's not going to play as a tight end. He's going to play more as a slot receiver, and even wide receiver. As, at Georgia, he never really even played tight end. He'll line up all over the field. He'll occasionally go into the slot. And you can always go 2 tight end sets if you have to with the Derek Carr and the Raiders. So, Dolphins selecting Christian Barmore. You already got your, who did they select 8th? You got your linebacker. Now you're going to get your defensive tackle up the middle. Just get a good run stopper, as they were one of the most run-on teams last year, so you got to stop that before it becomes too much of an issue this year. Not going to be that big of a help in the passing game, but you need a run stopper eventually. Then the football team, the best team name in all sports, are going to pick up Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. Now, this is important, because you're getting someone like Adam Thielen's Devontae Adams. Not the fastest guy on the field, but quick enough to get open and will run a lot of routes. Now, this is important for 2 reasons. One, you don't need that crazy arm strength that Alex Smith never had and really doesn't have now that he had that leg surgery. Additionally, you need a guy to get open fast in like a year and a half when you're going to have a new quarterback in there. So you don't want to have to wait for 3 seconds for Deshaun Jackson to run 50 yards down the field. So I like this pick just because it sets you up for both current and future. And you, at receiver depth, you have Terry McLaurin and then a whole bunch of other guys that are not notable. So this would give you finally a 1-2 punch at receiver. So the Bears picking up a center. You could go that Kyle Trask, but 20 is a bit early for him. You're going to pick up a center, try and run it back with Mitchell Trubisky, hope that he finally learns how to play offense correctly and not be a single read quarterback. Offensive lineman, not terribly much to talk about here. Or the Colts, after getting their quarterback for next year, and who knows how long after that, as they've kind of been the death ground of quarterbacks recently. You have Gregory Rousseau, the 4-3 defensive end, maybe the best defensive end on the board. He's fallen to 21 in this scenario. Might not happen in real life, but the problem is he doesn't fit into a 3-4 system, and if you go back, there's not a ton of teams he could have landed on from 10 to 21. Maybe the Vikings, but they already have that defensive line. So you get a gift, you gotta take it. You know you're going to get a great pressure guy, good long arms, agility, can line up inside on passing downs, just everything you could ask for from a pass rusher. Then Titans will also go edge rusher on the 3-4 outside linebacker, who's Von Miller-esque, Joseph Asai. You saw it in the Super Bowl with the way the Buccaneers were able to collapse the pocket with those speedy but also relatively strong outside linebackers coming in on those constant blitzes. Joseph Asai is built very similar to those linebackers, and that's where you want to be if you're the Titans. Get up your defense and be an old school style team that runs the ball and plays defense. 23, you have the Jets. You already got your franchise quarterback, Zach Wilson, earlier. So what do? You get him a receiver, Kadarius Toney out of Georgia. Just an amazing separator. His pro comp, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's got to be something similar to Adam Thielen, Devontae Adams. One of those types, a route runner, more elusive than he is fast. Get the ball out of Zach Wilson's hands fast before your offensive line has time to fail. 6 foot, that's what you like to see, round about 200 pounds, so he shouldn't have too much injury concerns. Just a solid pick at 23. Steelers going Jalen Mayfield here. Has a run-blocking offensive lineman. Traditionally don't go this early in the draft, but the way the Steelers play offense with a Big Ben getting rid of the ball so fast, you don't really need that great of a pass protector, although he's not bad at it. He's not like a liability, but he's definitely more of a run blocker, help out your running back, whoever that may be next year. Then you got Jalen Phillips, who plays really any edge position, whether that be 3-4 or outside linebacker. Don't know what the Jaguars are going to run next season with. But again, kind of like that Osai a bit ago, you have that. Hopefully you're hoping that he has enough power to collapse the pocket like the Buccaneers did in the Super Bowl. But enough agility to also pair with that little bit of strength that hopefully keeping them off balance. Moving on to the Browns, who are going to pick up Jeremiah, and he's a blitzing will linebacker. It's weird because he plays edge, he plays linebacker, and he plays slot cornerback. He's really moving all around the field. And, Browns have a great offense. If you can solidify that defense, I know the grade isn't there with him, but you have hopefully a guy that you can move around the field and really disguise what you're doing. because he can blitz from a slot cornerback role really well and blitz like an edge rusher, not like a cornerback. So moving right along, we got Wyatt Davis, an offensive guard for the Ravens. Again, not a ton to talk about here as it's an offensive lineman, but just a solid offensive lineman. Running the ball, not a problem, but run blocking can be for the Ravens. So just get some help in. Not the best guard on the board by any stretch of the imagination, but 27, what can you expect? Saints get J.C. Horns falling right into their laps. Decent at pretty much man and zone. Doesn't really matter and doesn't really have a specialty, but that also doesn't mean he doesn't really have a weakness. And with the Saints, you're probably going to be looking at a rebuild here in the next couple of years, as Breeze might be retiring this offseason. I don't think he's announced it yet, but you had that moment at the end of that conference, that was the divisional round, where he looked at Jameis Winston and said, "This is your team now." So maybe looking at a rebuild, in which case you might have a completely new coaching staff in a couple of years, and then you want just a guy that doesn't matter what scheme you're in, can play it. So moving on to Xavier Collins going to the Packers here, out of a small school, more of a zone player, which is a bit of a problem. But the linebacking core kind of needs a little bit of improvement for the Packers. And the corner, you'd love to get a cornerback here or a wide receiver, but the depth has already been taken earlier in the draft, so you're just kind of stuck with this best player available, Xavier Collins. And then we go to the Bills, getting Christian Darrisaw, falling all the way down to 30. Pass protector, could improve some run blocking, as he's not that strong or good in technique at run blocking. But the Bills don't run the football that much, and when they do, it's more off of a Josh Allen scramble than it is a designed either quarterback run or running back run, I guess. Either way, gonna be more pass protecting in the running game. So this is a perfect landing spot. If you can land a good offensive tackle, hopefully get Josh Allen a bit more comfortable in the pocket so he doesn't have to be quite as miracle finding in his game. But then we go on to Samuel Cosmi out of Texas. Now, he had a lackluster performance at the Senior Bowl, as he wasn't that good of an offensive lineman there. Something to note, but you're the Chiefs. You have the second to worst pick in the draft. You can't go Najee Harris, which that should be allude to who's 32nd. But, can't do that because you already have the running backs. Nothing really there for the first round talent, so you just kind of pick up a guy. And then I alluded to it earlier, but you got the Buccaneers with Najee Harris, running back. Same thing the Chiefs did. Best running back by a fairly wide margin. Only reason that grade is as low as it is because he plays running back, and I felt wrong putting him up there with Najee Harris in the other more valued skill position. But anyway, that's all I had for you today, and I'm going to head out. See you next time.